So I want to talk a little bit about how to work with the selection tools in Manga Studio. And I thought the best way to do that is to take this layout that we have imported in the import video and make a few tweaks to it. So when I created these layouts, I just created them on a blank sheet of paper. I had a rough idea of the size of the canvas, but as I'm looking at it now, some things don't quite match where I'd like them to be, so I could do a bit of rearranging. So I thought this would be a great way to show how the marquee tools work and how we can use the marquee tools to make some transformations to my layouts. The marquee tools, or the selection tools, whichever you like to call them, are located on the tools palette right about here. And there are several ones that we'll be using over the course of this series. The rectangle marquee, the elliptical marquee, the lasso marquee, the polyline marquee, the selection pen, a clear selection pen, and a shrink selection. Now, for this exercise, we're going to focus on the first four, the rectangle, ellipse, lasso, and polyline. To make a selection, you select the subtool you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use the rectangle marquee. And I select the area that I want to eventually change. In this case, I'm going to shift this whole thing over a little bit. So I'm going to make my selection. And you're going to see the marching ants, as I like to call the selections. And you're going to see this little launcher window pop up at the bottom. And this gives you a few selection commands that you can use to make the changes to the area you've selected. There is deselect, which basically turns off your selection. There's invert selected area. So if I click that, everything else but what I originally selected is now selected. I'll go back. There is expand and contract selection. So if I have this selected and I realize, oh, I need it a little bigger or a little smaller, I would click it. And this brings up the selected area dialog box. I would just enter in the width that I'd want. Right now it's 1 pixel, but I can make it 10 pixels, 20, up to 500 pixels. I'll leave it back to this. And then I can choose like if there's corners, if I want to have sharp corners or rounded corners. The same dialog box will appear if I was contracting the selected area as well. I don't need to do that, so I'll just press cancel. I have clear, which will just clear out everything in that selected area. Clear outside the selected area, which clears everything outside the selected area. We have fill, which will just fill the selected area with the foreground color. In this case, it would just fill it in with black, like so. I don't want that, so I'm going to just press undo. Add a new tone, which we'll be talking about later on in the series. And this is the one we're going to be using most in this video, transformations. You click this, and now the marching ants have a couple of control points to let you know that it is now in transformation mode. In this case, all I want to do is move it. So I'm just going to click any place within the selected area and move it over. So in this case, I'm just going to nudge the characters over, like so. If I'm happy with where it is, I come over to the Tool Properties palette and press the Confirm button, or I can press Enter on the keyboard. If I don't like it, I can press the X button or the Escape button on my keyboard. I like it, so I'm going to press that. And now my transformation has been set, and my area has been shifted over. I'm going to deselect. I'm actually going to move him over a little further down. So I'm going to transform again. Bring this down to about, let's say here. Good with that. Press Confirm. And there's that. And I would just kind of keep on doing that with the various bits of this panel. But you get the basic idea here. Now, let's say that I have this character here, and I like to bring him over to the other side. Like, he's running this way, but I want him to run over the other way. So in this case, I'm going to select the lasso marquee, which allows me to kind of trace around the person, like so. There's my selection, and I press Transform, and I can move him over here. He's running in the wrong direction now, so let's flip him. Press the Flip Horizontal button, and now he's running the other direction. I could also have him running upside down if I wanted to by pressing the Flip Vertical button. I don't want that. So I'm going to go with that. And if I liked it, I'd press Confirm. I'm finding out, no, I don't really like it over there, so I'm just going to hit Escape. And it goes back to where he was. I'll deselect. Now, one thing I've also noticed, like I have my main villain here, and I want him to really show up. And in the first panel, I have him over here on a pile of rubble, and I realized, you know what, we're in the city, there's buildings here, trust me, and I want him to be, like, say, on a taxi cab or whatever. More importantly, I want him to really kind of be a little bigger in this scene. So I'm going to have to go in and rescale. So I select my guy with the lasso tool, like so, and press Transform, and now I'm going to scale. Any of the control points you see here can be used to scale up and scale down your selection. this case, I want to make them a little bigger, so I'll bring them up to here. And if I overlap some of the other characters, that's okay. This is the layouts. We'll be adding people later on. But it's more important that I get the basic idea down. And come down here and just move him down. Let's say he's not quite at the right angle. I could always rotate. If I select anywhere outside of these control points, you'll see the icon changes to the rotate. Like so. I can just rotate like so. That seems pretty good. I'm happy with that. I press confirm. And there we go. So now one last thing. Let's say that I have a basic idea of this building here, but I don't really like how that looks, and I'm probably going to redraw it anyway, so come up with something else completely. So I'm going to switch from the lasso marquee to the polyline marquee. I'm going to click and hit each point that I want to make my selection on. I don't want to select that panel, so I'm just going to trace around it. And just keep clicking until I get to the starting point, and click, and my selection is made. I don't want that anymore, so I'm just going to press the clear button, which you can also use the clear button up here, by the way, on the command bar, but it happens to be here, so might as well use it. Click that, and now it's all gone. Deselect. And I could tweak this, and I will be tweaking it because that's what I do. But I think right now you get a basic idea of how the selection tools work, and more importantly, how you can take these selections and get rid of the things you don't need and make your selection and make any transformations that you need to move things around, rotate, scale as much as you want. With that said, I do have to point out that if you are making transformations, try not to make too many transformations of the same selection, because the more you do it, especially on these raster layers, the image quality will start to degrade. So if you transform it like once, maybe twice, that's okay. But beyond that, you're going to find that the selection will start to blur out and eventually be unusable. So that's just something to keep in mind.